Welcome. This is a session about user experience from the administrator's perspective. My name is Mikko Järvinen. I'm from University of Turku, from Finland, and I work as a normal system administrator. Try to bring some aspects how we try to make our users happy. User experience, it even has an international standardizing organization definition that it's a person's perceptions and responses that result when a user uses some system. And it consists of three factors: this user and the system and the context of use. And here are some topics that are related to the user experience, an awful lot of them, but this is what I picked up for you. User experience from the user part. There are emotions, behaviors, beliefs, and skills. And that is what the trainers usually try to help the user in. If the user has better skills with the program, then the user experience is better. Then the computer part is more the system administrator's work. We have the network, the servers, the hardware, which are something that usually don't affect user experience until there is not enough resources. But the user won't get any benefit if we speed up his internet connection from 100 megabytes to 10 gigabytes. It's just what is enough is enough. Then the accessibility. It's important these days when people just bring their own devices and want to work everywhere at any time. User interface. That's the software developer's world. We administrators can do pretty little for the user interface. It's locked. The Office ribbon, it's there. We cannot change it back. And users just have to learn to use the new user interfaces, and that's where the training comes and the skills and how the users see that, okay, this is actually not that bad when I learn to use this. But the policies, preferences, and settings, those are the three important things that system administrators can do for the user to help the users use the systems and improve the user experience. Okay. Here's the Windows XP computer, as you can see. And as you know, XP will support for Windows XP will end in April, and we have to do something for this. And if we replace Windows XP with Windows 7, that won't be too big change for the user, because everything is basically in the same place. There is start menu, and the users don't need that much training. But when we do something like this, then the user has problems. Where is my start menu? What is this? How do I swipe? All kinds of problems. And then we'll have to concentrate more on the user. And how can we measure UX? The applicator that Sami just told this morning, the beta announcement, it's something that has pretty much to do with this. How you can measure how actually the user sees the system, how it works. But we can measure user experience by measuring user happiness. And we always try to make the users as happy as possible. Good user experience, that is our goal. But unfortunately, because we're dealing with computers, the situation is not always that good. And sometimes the situation is bad, where program crashes, there's some paper jam in printer, all kinds of stuff happen. But these three levels of user happiness have something in common. Users don't tell the IT admins about these situations. They just think it's normal. They usually tell when the situation is something like this. And then we have a problem. We don't want to have that situation with our users. Ultimate user happiness. This is a real story. On the SysAdmin Appreciation Day on 2009, we, the IT services at the University of Turku, received a box of chocolates from a student village that we host. We host the network connections to the student village. And they were so happy about the connection and the services that they got that we actually got chocolates. First we thought that they are poisoned, but when the first one tried, they were not. That was really nice. Then the PC system layers. This is quite familiar, the hardware, operating system, application settings, and user data. This is something that I'll try to go through and pick up a few topics from here that we can actually help with the user experience. And I've tried to help to understand how these actually are these the computer or the user world. The hardware, it's computer stuff. You can't replace a processor of a user or put more memory into a user because, well, sometimes you would like to do that or install a new operating system. The operating system, it's a bit more closer to the user. It's still the computer thing. Applications, closer to the user than the settings. We are approaching user more and more, and user data, it's user thing. Then from the hardware level, desktop virtualization. This is about to present how I think how virtualized desktops and user experience are dealing. What they have to do with each other. We have different technologies that we can use and different products. But what is important is that if the latency is too big, then the user feels that it's kind of a sluggish. It's not the same as the PC on a desktop or the laptop. And then we have a lot of things that we can try to we can try to put the virtualized desktop into a better shape by using, say, we have to tune the operating system. There are awful long scripts that you can run on the Windows 7 or Windows 8 clients so that they operate better in a virtualized environment. But the operating system itself, it's still not quite ready to be virtualized. Then the VDI antivirus. If we build up virtualized desktops from master image, and there's an antivirus solution in them, they have the virus definitions outdated, and that client begins to update those virus definitions. So we need another kind of antivirus solutions which has the virus definitions which are not in the client. And then PC over IP protocol, we need probably some hardware and the graphical user interface hardware virtualization. So we find out that we actually need more and more technologies and more stuff to get the same level of user experience as the user has with a normal desktop. From the operating system, Windows Start Screen. Windows 8.1, you can use copy profile in unattended.xml or start tiles to pre-configure the start screen. Or then you could use the export start layout commandlet with PowerShell and import that XML into group policy, and then the computers have the predefined start screen. Or then you could use the binary export and import to import it into offline or live system. But the problem is that the start screen, it's user space. It's like the taskbar. It's not designed so that the software or admins go and put there are things there. And when we install a new program into Windows 8.1, it doesn't put out the software icons or the shortcuts so that user can find them easily. They have to go to apps and find it somewhere where is the new application. That's too complicated if we haven't taught the users how to use that. Then user interface language. Väärä käyttöliittymän kieli voi aiheuttaa ikävän käyttäjäkokemuksen. What do you say? Do you agree? It says wrong user interface language may cause a nasty user experience. But this happens. This happens because software vendors, software developers don't know what they do. They just check what is system local, and they use that for the user interface language. We, in the university, we have, by default, we have all our desktops and software in English. Because we have researchers and people that can't understand Finnish. But then there are software that see that system local, it's Finnish, so I'll be representing everything in Finnish, and that's a wrong way to do it. So then we, the system administrators, have to try to figure out how to correct those things. When you're beta testing or using a lab environment, then probably it's better to stick with the US settings, because the localized versions or the different locals, they're probably not that well tested. There have been issues with the, at least server 2008, 2012, Hyper-V didn't install if there was some else than NUS in place. I'll show you one example of this. It's about software that we had, and it had this problem that it defaulted to the system locale. It's called PDF Exchange. It's a PDF Weaver program, and it came as an MSI package. And when the new version came, I just opened the MSI and checked if there were any kind of changes in it, and I'll jump to the property table, and I was quite happy to see that there was this thing called, let's see if I can find it somewhere here. Oh, let's sort this. This one. VDEF lang ID. That was interesting. If I click that one, and I have the row reference tracking selected, I can see that it makes some changes in the registry. And let's jump there, and I can see that that property, when defined, changes a registry setting, which is software. Sorry, I'll just have to. Bigger software tracker, software PDF Weaver International, and it defines a registry setting called a local ID. So that sounded like, hey, this is meant to be a way to set the default user language, how the program uses, what the program picks up as a default user interface language. But I tried to use this property, but it didn't work. And in the end, it happened that there was a typo in that. It should be a local ID. There's E missing. So the software vendor were doing a great job, but it just didn't go exactly how they had thought that it would be. So I'll apply the transform here, so you can see that with the MSG file in place, we will jump to the property. I have set the VDEF lang ID to -1, which means that use the same user interface language as the operating system has, if I remember correctly. And from the registry table, I have fixed the typo, and after that, everything just worked well. And I reported this back to the vendor, and they said thank you, and in the next version, they had corrected this typo. Okay, back to the slides. Version number print drivers. This is an example of when system administrators have very little to do with the printer drivers. We can't make our own printer driver. Well, we can, but we don't have resources to make new print drivers. The problem is that if a print driver doesn't support version numbered installations, then you can't just upgrade the older print driver with the new version if it's in use. It will just break the driver. This is a driver A, which is not version numbered. It has version 1.0 installed. Then the driver B, it supports the version numbered installations. And these drivers come from the print server to the client. Then the driver B gets a new version, and we install it on the print server, and we change it to the print queue, and the client copies the files and it changes that print driver. The user or the computer begins to use it, and the old driver stays in the computer, but it just works. But then the driver A, it has a new version, and it is copied over the older version, and some files are maybe locked, and some really amazing things happen. When you go to print preferences and you click the tabs, they just disappear, or some text are missing. So this is not working, but this is what some vendors do. And let's pick up print management. Okay. Print management. This is my computer. Here I have the drivers, and you can see here is one example of a driver which doesn't support version numbered installations, but then we have a driver which is the same driver, but you can install different versions of it, and it won't just break. It works. This is how things should have been done. Okay. Nice animation, right? Improving user experience by repackaging the software. This is what we do a lot. We get the software, open the shrink wrap, get the CD and manuals, put the CD in the computer and see what happens, and then we decide what we do. Can we use it as it is, or should we make an AppV package, or should we repackage it as an MSI package, or should we just throw it into a trash can and say that, sorry, we can't install this one. You should repackage the program when it's required, when you need, say, silent install, or you need MSI package, or when you install the program to that many computers that you actually need that package, or when you need to make some customizations into the package that you can't do with the original installer, or if you just want to have one single solid package that you can deploy, and after that everything works. No external scripts or something that you fine-tune the installations after they've done. But software vendors don't succeed always. It was about 10 seconds thinking I picked up this ones. They fail in upgrades, updates, the MSI packaging. They don't provide documentation. They don't provide a way to pre-configure software. They don't have support for central management, say group policy templates, and default settings are wrong, and they have outdated runtime environments or frameworks, or they use them as they shouldn't be used. Then, however, when we repackage the software, we have to think how much it will cost. If the software will be installed to, say, 5 or 10 computers, maybe then it's not an issue. The help desk person can go and install the software. But if it's, say, 30 or 40 computers, then it's probably better to install, to create a package and use that as a deployment. In deployment, and we also can make some changes into the package to improve the user experience. No end-user license agreements, and no pop-ups that user don't want to see. The repackaging process, this is something which actually you can't say for sure before you do the package that which parts is an issue and how much time will go into different phases. But you learn it by experience. And usually when you open an MSI, you can see if the custom action table is full of scary custom actions, you can say that, okay, this is not going to end well. Then the story of a default web browser. Unfortunately, one browser is not enough. Browsers today are quite good, but the web services are not that good. And of course, every browser would like to be the default browser, for sure. Microsoft wants, everybody uses IE. If someone installs Firefox, that should be default. Google, yeah, they want everybody to use Chrome. What does the user want? The user doesn't want to get any strange questions. So let's look at that. I have here, okay, I don't have here because it's not anywhere here. It's not here, but I think it's, if I go here, here I find, this is what I talk about, how user can find the Firefox. It's installed, but they can find it. Okay. Firefox is not currently set as your default browser. Would you like to make it your default browser? Always perform this check. Okay, yes, of course, always check. What is this? Now we get, this is nice. We zoom, it works quite well with this. We get a question. How do you want to open this type of link, HTTP? What does the user think at this point? They call help desk. My computer just broke. It gives some E and some fire and some mark. I don't know. This is not good. Well, we click here. Okay, let's click Firefox. Now we have Firefox, default browser. User quits. Sorry, I'll close the IE. Then the same problem where the user finds IE. Okay, it's here. He opens IE. Oh, what is this? Don't miss out on the browser. Okay, yes, yes, set default. Same question again. Yes. What happens next? We get to the modern UI IE. Why? I have no idea. Think about the user, the normal user trying to read her or his email or and there is, of course, new tab text. Okay, let's put that away. So what we want to do is to go to Internet Options, Advanced, and if you can shout if you find it before me. It's hard to close here. Where is it? Sorry. Just say where it is. Down, yes, yes. There it is. Yep, tell me. You want to use some script to edit the registry and put that away from the user so they won't get confused about this. Don't do it with the mouse and with the zoom it on. And same thing with the Firefox. Again. And one thing that we actually can see what Firefox makes when we click this yes, and we, okay, again, and tools and options. This is something that you have to do in Firefox in a prefs.js file. It's not in a registry. Here is the same question. Always check. No, never check. Now we're fine. And when we close Firefox, we can actually see that Firefox has put itself into the taskbar. This is something that programs shouldn't do. This is user space. Yeah. We'll unpin that. That was about the default browsers.
Where did you say the Firefox setting is? It's not in the registry?
It's in a prefs.js file in the user, under the user profile, under the Firefox profile. It's
That's a random path for every user.
Yeah.
Firefox profile.
It's easy to configure when you write the script, which is this long, and it takes care of it.
It's as easy as it was for you to see that the MSI is bad. I didn't see it.
Yes. Okay. Repackaging Mozilla Firefox, or one of the millions of ways to do that. Yeah. Well, we'll see that. Okay, because you asked about the Firefox. I have here the Firefox ESR Extended Support Release version 17. Sorry, now I'm completely lost with this Windows. Here? No, this is the wrong one. Here. Yes, now we're finally there. 17.0.6 Extended Support Release version. The ESR version is for enterprises that don't want to update to the normal Firefox update cycle, so this is kind of a different version. But this is how we have done it. We have decided to make our own MSI package from the Firefox. And we have here the Wix toolset files that we use. These are XML files, and we define these components and how the files and registry settings should end up in the MSI file. And then we have some scripts and about that prefs.js. Here's a profile.vbs script that we have created to fix the user settings. And here we go through a few prefs. Here is, as you could see, when I started Firefox, it went to the, well, you probably didn't see, but it went to the intranet side of the University of Turku. And we have here the SSO settings for the user's prefs file. And then we just make some changes, and user is happy. Administrator is not happy, but the user is happy. And under the files, we have also made changes to the defaults. Here are prefs.js that user gets, and here are some changes that we already have. The script is because we have users, for example, in a computer lab, and they log on, and they should have the settings in place as when they are on the desktop. And so we have made up an active setup in the MSI package so that the active setup runs that script when user logs on, so that actually fixes the Mozilla Firefox profile. Okay, probably that was enough. Then annoying Citrix receiver prompts. This is quite funny because we have Citrix environment and we have installed the Citrix program neighborhood org setup or hosted plugin for hosted apps or receiver or whatever it's called that week. And it uses kind of a single sign-on that when domain user logs onto the computer, it signs on to the Citrix environment. But the problem is that for local accounts, it can't log on to the domain resources, and it gives you this prompt. And we had local accounts in the auditorium, and there was a public referral of doctoral thesis going on. And it happened that this dialogue popped up onto the presentation computer, and the opponent was actually opposing more with the Citrix receiver than the person who was giving his doctoral thesis. That was something when we got feedback which was a bit like this. And then we decided that, okay, we really have to do something for this. And the solution was to create a script, again, and replace the Citrix receiver startup shortcut with that script. So it's in program data. It's still here, although it's Windows 8. Microsoft Windows Start menu, Programs, Startup. Here we had the receiver link, but we replaced it with the Citrix receiver startup BB script, which just checks for the domain of the logged on user, and if it's not a domain user, it does nothing. If it is a domain user, then it will start the here. Then it will start the receiver. And this was something that we should have done before that unfortunate situation.
I wish everyone would comment this.
Thanks. Okay, then how a window went to session 0 and nobody ever saw it again, except the brave admin. It was me. Interactive services detection. In Windows XP, all the sessions, user and the system had the same session shared. It was session 0. Yeah, all the windows that system draw, users could see those. But since Windows Vista, the user session was, if it had, the system had session 0 and the user got session 1 or 2 or whatever it was. But this was to prevent the user from getting access to the local system. And you can get the windows. You can see the windows from the session 0 using PSExec or some other tricks. And this is one trick that you can use. You can create your own service with this bin path equals space cmd/k start type equals to space bar own type is interact. And when you launch that, you start up that service, it does pretty much nothing. I'll show you. I hope I have it configured. Session 0 SBC. The service did not respond to the start or control request in timely fashion. Like I told you, nothing happens. This is Windows 8, so the default setting is that this is deprecated, but these interactive services are not supported anymore. Or you can jump to the registry editor and find out that here are no interactive services, which is 1 by default. We'll change it to 0. And let's try that again. Again, same text. Nothing happens except this one. Interactive services detection. A program running on this computer is trying to display a message. Okay. Let's not click that one until I run process monitor. Office Explorer, rather, yeah. And we'll see what's the session that these processes are running on. Sorry. Okay, now it's better. Okay, we can see that from the service that we created that we have cmd.exe running in session 0 as a system account. Then I will start up. I'll try to simulate what happens when a program opens up a window in session 0. So the deployment tools, software deployment tools like Config Manager, they use local system account by default, and they run the installations using that account. So we actually are running in the session 0 and with a local system account the installations. But if the program installation or uninstallation is not completely silent, it can just give some window and user can't see that. Sorry. Here. Just copy this one. Okay. Now we see what's happening. We can see that we also have some wscript.exe running on session 0. Sorry. And now we go to the interactive services detection and we see what happened. And we have this one. A stupid question. Are you really sure you want to silently install this program? This is something that we actually have seen with 2 antivirus solutions. The installation or the uninstallation was not completely silent, and the dialog is sitting here in the local system desktop. There's nobody here to click it. I think local system is not going to click that dialog, and the user can't see that. So the installation is waiting, and user can't see nothing. User can't see it, and okay, what happens? User restarts its computer, and maybe the installation is in the middle, and it's broken. Okay, yes. And we'll get back. This is what happened. You can see from the logo that this is one of those antivirus solutions. Another one had an uninstall password. I won't tell what the antivirus solution was, but the password to uninstall it was Symantec.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah. Okay. Then upgrades that didn't go well. Or actually when help desk people had to buy new tennis shoes. They had a lot of running. This was something that happened when we had group policy-based software deployments and we moved to Configuration Manager, and we were a bit of a hurry with one installation, and we just deployed the installation, but there was this group policy-based software installations in place in the computers, and after we installed the program with the config manager, those group policy-based installations fixed themselves, and actually when they fixed themselves, they messed up the computers and nothing works. And that's when I decided we're not going to do that anymore. You'll have to be 100% sure that whenever we install a program, it won't break up the computer. And the solution was, again, a little script which in the end grew bigger and bigger. And this is what this small script ended up doing. It's a wrapper script. We don't publish the installation command line. We publish the script, and it makes some checks, and if everything's okay, then it installs the program, or it uninstalls. And one important thing is that we get valid return codes. If the installation fails, we report back to the config manager that code so that we can see what actually happened. If we always return 0, then we have no idea if there were some problems with the installation, because the script returns 0 if we don't return any other code. And this is a flowchart. What it does, we're checking the per machine installations. If there are those, we notify user and we quit. If there are per user installation which are blocking, again we notify the user and we just quit. If there are some processes running, say we want to install Adobe Reader and there are browsers running, it just doesn't make sense to try to install that program if we know that it's not going to install when there are the processes that are blocking the installation. So we will ask user if he wants to try again, and he either quits the process or closes the programs. Then the script continues. It checks if the program already has been installed. If it's installed, it provides a way for user to uninstall that program. And we will return the return code from the uninstall command back to the config manager. If user gets here, finally he can choose to install the program. If the program was already installed and user decides not to install the program, then we quit 0 because everything's fine. And if user doesn't want to install but the program weren't installed, then we can decide that, okay, user decided I want to install Adobe Reader, but then he decided, no, I don't want to install, and we get different return code, and we can go to those users and ask, what are you doing? Okay, then if user finally decides, I want to install with an reinstall command, then we check if the reboot is needed. If it's not needed, everything's okay, and we return the return code from the installation command. If reboot is needed, then we provide a user-friendly reboot dialog, because configuration manager has options that you either reboot or then you give a countdown. But it's not good user experience that computer just suddenly reboots or you have 5 minutes to save your work. So this will wait for the user to press OK. And after that, it schedules a reboot after 60 seconds so that the script can end. And after that, computer reboots. Okay. Microsoft User Experience Virtualization, UAV, which is in MDOP. This has something to do with the user experience. And I'm not going to go through this. I think Adnan Hendricks is going to talk about this tomorrow. But these are a few different scenarios when I thought that user experience virtualizations could be in place. What we have actually seen is the first one, the personal use. User has the same settings on all his computers, but do we really want to have same settings in our laptop and our desktop? I think maybe that's where we need different settings, because they're different kind of environments. Then if you have remote apps or VDI, then it makes more sense to have the settings same, whatever remote app server or wherever VDI desktop or the workstation user gets. Or in a computer lab where the user just goes into a machine and then he does something and logs out and then goes to another computer and the settings are just the same. Then bring your own whatever. If everything's in the cloud, we can't configure the software for the users. We can't help users to pre-configure the applications that are on the app stores. It doesn't matter if it's Apple or Google Play or Microsoft Store. We'll have to try to train the users that they can put the right settings into their applications. This is kind of a problem. We would like to help users, but we have no ways. We have mobile device management solutions, but still we can't do all these things that we can do with the desktop solutions. We can't make a script and run that on the iPad or Surface. Okay, then big thanks to all the sponsors. Thank you. And remember this. User experience matters. Every software sucks. That's for sure. Take good care of users. And maybe you will get a box of chocolates. Kiitos. Thank you. And we've got time for questions.